Welcome to today's deep dive into Dark Psychology and Manipulation by William Cooper. In this video, we'll explore the factual principles and techniques that Cooper presents to explain how hidden psychological tactics influence behavior, decision-making, and society at large. The major ideas of the book examine real-life examples and discuss practical ways to recognize and defend against manipulation. Let's begin by understanding what Cooper means by dark psychology. In Dark Psychology and Manipulation by William Cooper, we are invited to step into a world that reveals the hidden tactics used to subtly influence human behavior and decision-making. A realm where the ordinary meets the extraordinary through the lens of psychological warfare and covert manipulation. This book offers a meticulously researched and fact-based exploration into the nature of dark psychology, a field that studies the darker facets of human behavior, exposing how psychological tactics, often operating beneath the threshold of our conscious awareness, can be wielded to control, deceive, and even exploit. Cooper's work is both a warning and an educational guide, aiming to empower readers by shedding light on the mechanisms of influence that pervade our everyday lives. He delves into the core principles that underlie these manipulative practices, arguing that understanding the human mind's vulnerabilities is key to both recognizing and defending against them. Throughout the text, Cooper explains that dark psychology is not an abstract concept confined to theoretical discussions. Rather, it is a practical framework that illustrates how persuasion techniques, when applied in subtle and sophisticated ways, can alter our perceptions and behaviors. Drawing on factual examples from history, politics, business, and interpersonal relationships, the book shows how these methods have been refined over time and embedded in various facets of society. From the way advertising campaigns are designed to the strategies employed by political figures to sway public opinion, Cooper's analysis is comprehensive, focusing on a range of techniques such as the strategic use of flattery, appeals to emotion, and the exploitation of fear and uncertainty to destabilize rational thought processes. He discusses how repetition and social proof, where the behavior of others is used as a guide, can reinforce these psychological strategies, making them even more potent. The narrative takes a deep dive into the subtle art of persuasion, examining how nonverbal cues such as body language, tone of voice, and even facial expressions contribute to the overall impact of a manipulative message. This examination is presented with a clear, factual basis, ensuring that every claim is grounded in observable behavior and historical precedent. As the reader moves through the book, they are challenged to rethink the dynamics of everyday interactions, recognizing that the techniques of dark psychology are not reserved for the realms of high-stakes political maneuvers or corporate boardrooms, but are equally present in the microcosms of personal relationships and social encounters. Cooper's work underscores the fact that while these tactics can be used to subvert personal autonomy, they also provide invaluable insights into the human condition, revealing the complexities of our emotional and cognitive responses, and offering us the tools to better understand our own behavior. In a society increasingly driven by information and media, the implications of dark psychology are more relevant than ever. The book carefully outlines how modern technology and digital platforms have amplified the reach of these manipulative techniques, making it possible for mass influence to occur on a scale previously unimaginable. Yet, despite the potentially sinister applications of these insights, Cooper's tone remains balanced and objective, focused on education rather than sensationalism. He emphasizes that knowledge is the first step toward empowerment. By understanding the mechanics of manipulation, individuals can become more vigilant and discerning, capable of critically evaluating the messages they encounter every day. The book does not shy away from exploring the ethical dimensions of these practices. Cooper challenges us to consider where the line should be drawn between influence and coercion, urging both individuals and institutions to reflect on the moral responsibilities that come with wielding psychological power. In doing so, he opens up a broader conversation about accountability, transparency, and the ethical use of psychological tactics in both public and private spheres. Throughout this thought-provoking narrative, Cooper's insights are delivered in a manner that is both accessible and deeply analytical, inviting readers to question the status quo and to re-examine the subtle forces that shape their thoughts and actions. By presenting complex ideas in a clear, engaging style, the book serves as an invaluable resource for anyone interested in the dynamics of human influence, offering practical advice on how to detect and resist manipulative strategies, while also encouraging a deeper understanding of the human psyche. As you listen to this introduction and prepare to dive further into the book's exploration of dark psychology, consider this: in a world where every interaction may be tinged with hidden influence, could it be that the choices you believe are entirely your own are, in fact, being subtly steered by unseen forces? What is dark psychology? In this opening chapter, we delve into a realm where the hidden facets of the human mind are exposed, revealing how our intrinsic mental weaknesses, when combined with sophisticated covert techniques, create a fertile ground for manipulation. At its core, dark psychology is the study of those aspects of human behavior that remain largely unseen, yet have a profound impact on our daily decisions and interactions. The book explains that every human mind carries vulnerabilities such as cognitive biases, emotional susceptibilities, and an inherent desire for social validation that can be exploited by those who understand how to manipulate them. These vulnerabilities are not simply abstract theories, they are rooted in observable phenomena that occur in our everyday lives, influencing everything from our purchasing decisions to our political choices. Manipulators leverage these weaknesses by employing covert techniques that bypass our rational defenses, operating beneath the surface of our conscious awareness. These techniques include subtle forms of suggestion, repetitive messaging, and the strategic use of non-verbal cues like body language and tone of voice. When combined, these tactics form a powerful arsenal capable of steering opinions and altering behaviors without the target ever realizing that their autonomy is being compromised. The underlying purpose behind these manipulative strategies is twofold. While some applications may be designed to streamline communication or facilitate decision-making in high-pressure environments, the darker aspect of these techniques is their potential to control and exploit individuals for personal gain or to serve broader ideological agendas. The book provides factual accounts that illustrate how dark psychology has been employed in various domains, ranging from political propaganda and corporate marketing to intimate personal relationships. For instance, by exploiting the human tendency to trust authority figures or to conform to group norms, manipulators can subtly influence behavior through a carefully constructed framework that minimizes resistance and maximizes compliance. This is achieved through a combination of persuasive language and psychological triggers that resonate deeply with our inherent fears and desires. The manipulation often occurs so gradually that the individual remains unaware of the external influence at play, making it all the more insidious. The text further emphasizes that the covert nature of these techniques is what makes them particularly dangerous. When messages are delivered in a way that seems natural and unobtrusive, the mind's critical faculties are less likely to be engaged, and the influence can take hold more effectively. Moreover, the book underscores that dark psychology is not solely the domain of criminal masterminds or high-powered politicians. It is a pervasive element in everyday interactions, subtly guiding behavior in ways that are both predictable and alarming. By understanding these covert techniques, individuals can begin to develop a sense of vigilance, learning to recognize when they are being manipulated. The ultimate goal of exploring dark psychology is not to incite fear, but to empower people with knowledge, enabling them to safeguard their autonomy and make more informed decisions. Throughout the chapter, the reader is presented with a series of documented cases and empirical evidence that support the existence and efficacy of these manipulative tactics, offering a sobering reminder that the forces shaping our choices are often hidden in plain sight. As we journey through this exploration of dark psychology, we are encouraged to reflect on our own cognitive processes and to question whether the freedoms we assume are innate might, in fact, be subtly engineered by those who have mastered the art of influence. With each example and factual analysis, the chapter lays bare the complexity of human behavior, urging us to reconsider the true nature of our decisions in a world where manipulation is both a scientific study and a practical reality. As you ponder these insights and prepare to venture further into the mechanics of psychological control, ask yourself this: in a landscape where every interaction might be a carefully orchestrated performance, is it possible that the choices you hold dear are not as freely made as you once believed? In the second chapter, Manipulation Techniques and Strategies, the book delves into the intricate mechanisms by which influence is exerted over individuals, revealing a sophisticated interplay between trust, emotional manipulation, confusion born of insufficient information, and the calculated use of psychological triggers. Central to these techniques is the art of cultivating trust and reliance, a process in which the manipulator gradually positions themselves as a dependable authority figure, thereby lowering the defenses of their target. This carefully orchestrated game of trust is achieved by consistently offering small affirmations, mirroring behaviors, and engaging in empathetic dialogue that creates an illusion of mutual understanding and shared values. Once this bond is established, the target becomes increasingly receptive to subtle nudges that gradually steer their beliefs and actions. The book explains that such reliance is not easily dismantled because it leverages the natural human tendency to seek security in familiar and comforting relationships, thus turning trust into an invisible chain that binds the individual to the manipulator's agenda. Equally powerful is the use of emotional weapons, which harness the volatile spectrum of human emotions to bypass rational thought. By eliciting feelings such as fear, excitement, guilt, or even elation, manipulators can override logical scrutiny, driving decisions that may contradict an individual's best interests. These emotional triggers are deployed with precision, often timed to coincide with moments of vulnerability when the target is most susceptible to influence. The book presents numerous factual examples of how such tactics have been successfully implemented in diverse settings, from high-stakes political campaigns to everyday interpersonal conflicts, demonstrating that the strategic arousal of emotions is a universal tool in the arsenal of dark psychology. Another critical element explored in this chapter is the impact of a lack of information, which creates fertile ground for confusion and uncertainty. When individuals are deliberately kept in the dark or fed incomplete data, their ability to critically assess situations is compromised, making them more likely to accept simplified narratives or misleading interpretations. This intentional obfuscation of facts, coupled with the constant bombardment of contradictory messages, fosters a state of mental disarray where clarity is sacrificed for control. In such environments, the absence of reliable information not only sows confusion, but also heightens the individual's reliance on the manipulator for guidance, effectively making the person a captive of their own uncertainty. Complementing these strategies is the sophisticated use of psychological triggers, carefully curated stimuli that tap into deeply embedded cognitive responses. These triggers, which may include familiar phrases, evocative imagery, or symbolic gestures, are designed to evoke automatic responses that bypass the usual layers of conscious deliberation. The book details how the repetitive exposure to these triggers conditions the mind, eventually creating associations that can be activated in moments of decision-making. Over time, the conditioned response becomes so ingrained that the target may act almost instinctively, driven by subconscious cues rather than deliberate thought. This potent combination of trust, emotional arousal, informational deprivation, and conditioned responses forms a comprehensive framework of manipulation that is both subtle and remarkably effective. Throughout the chapter, factual evidence is provided to underscore the real-world applications of these techniques, emphasizing that while the methods may appear disconcerting, they are based on observable behaviors and well-documented psychological principles. The insights offered serve as a clarion call for fear, heightened awareness, encouraging individuals to scrutinize the sources of influence in their lives and to question the narratives that are presented to them. As you absorb these revelations and consider the pervasive nature of these strategies, ask yourself this: in a world where every smile, every whispered word, and every seemingly benign gesture could be part of a deliberate plan to sway your mind, how can you discern which influences are genuine and which are designed to control you? In the third chapter, Key Arguments Presented in the Book, the discussion turns to the essential debates and reflections that underpin the study of dark psychology and manipulation, focusing on personal security and awareness, the profound impact on society and politics, and the pressing question of morality. At the heart of the book is the assertion that understanding and recognizing manipulation techniques is not merely an academic exercise, but a vital component of personal security. The text argues that individuals must cultivate a heightened sense of self-awareness to guard against the covert tactics that seek to undermine their autonomy. This process begins with a clear understanding of one's cognitive biases and vulnerabilities, which are often exploited through carefully orchestrated psychological strategies. By developing critical thinking skills and adopting a skeptical attitude towards persuasive messaging, individuals can create mental defenses that protect them from falling prey to manipulative forces. This aspect of the book emphasizes that knowledge and vigilance are the cornerstones of personal empowerment, in an age where subtle influence permeates every level of interaction. Beyond the individual, the book contends that the mechanisms of dark psychology have far-reaching consequences on society and politics. It provides a factual exploration of how manipulation is systematically deployed to shape public opinion, often without the awareness of the masses. The text documents numerous historical and contemporary instances where leaders, media outlets, and interest groups have employed psychological tactics to engineer consent and drive political agendas. This manipulation is not always overt. It can be as insidious as the constant barrage of selective information that molds perceptions over time. Such practices, the book explains, have contributed to a climate of confusion and distrust, where the line between genuine discourse and manufactured consensus becomes increasingly blurred. The societal implications are significant, as the erosion of informed debate and critical scrutiny can pave the way for authoritarian practices and the marginalization of dissenting voices. By dissecting these dynamics, the book urges its readers to remain ever vigilant, recognizing that the manipulation of collective consciousness can have dire consequences for democratic institutions and social cohesion. Central to these discussions is the exploration of the morality inherent in the use of dark psychological techniques. The book does not shy away from the ethical dilemmas posed by the deliberate exploitation of human vulnerabilities. It presents a nuanced analysis of the fine line that separates influence from coercion, highlighting that while some methods of persuasion may be justified in contexts such as education or public health, their misuse for personal gain or political control represents a grave ethical transgression. The text challenges readers to reflect on the moral responsibilities of those who wield the power to shape opinions and behaviors, questioning whether the ends can ever truly justify the means when it comes to manipulating the human mind. This inquiry into morality is supported by empirical evidence and documented case studies, which illustrate how the misuse of dark psychology can lead to widespread harm, eroding trust in societal institutions, and compromising the integrity of interpersonal relationships. Ultimately, the book posits that a moral framework grounded in transparency, accountability, and respect for individual autonomy is essential for mitigating the risks posed by manipulative practices, and that fostering such a framework is a collective responsibility that extends beyond individual self-defense. Through these interwoven arguments, the book presents a compelling case for why understanding dark psychology is crucial in our modern world. It reinforces that personal security is inextricably linked to the ability to discern and resist subtle forms of manipulation, while also underscoring the broader societal dangers that arise when such tactics are normalized in political discourse and public life. As we consider the ethical challenges that emerge from this interplay of influence and control, the text invites us to ponder the balance between persuasion and manipulation, urging us to question the legitimacy of those who seek to steer collective behavior. As you reflect on these profound insights and the delicate balance between personal freedom and societal control, ask yourself this: in an era where the power to shape thoughts and opinions is increasingly wielded by unseen forces, can we truly safeguard our autonomy without a fundamental rethinking of the moral values that underpin our social contracts? In the fourth chapter, Real-Life Examples and Case Studies, the book turns its analytical gaze toward the tangible manifestations of dark psychology by examining the pervasive presence of manipulation in personal relationships, the influential role of media and propaganda, and the significant impact of organized groups and conspiracy theories. In personal relationships, the text reveals that manipulation is not always overtly aggressive or malicious. Rather, it often takes the form of subtle behavioral cues and strategic emotional appeals designed to secure control over another individual. The book presents documented cases where trust and affection are exploited, demonstrating how a partner's vulnerabilities, be it a fear of abandonment, a desire for validation, or simply a lack of self-confidence, can be systematically targeted and manipulated. Such examples underscore the insidious nature of these tactics, showing that what appears to be genuine care or support can, discourse and manufactured consensus becomes increasingly blurred. The societal implications are significant, as the erosion of informed debate and critical scrutiny can pave the way for authoritarian practices and the marginalization of dissenting voices. By dissecting these dynamics, the book urges its readers to remain ever vigilant, recognizing that the manipulation of collective consciousness can have dire consequences for democratic institutions and social cohesion. Central to these discussions is the exploration of the morality inherent in the use of dark psychological techniques. The book does not shy away from the ethical dilemmas posed by the deliberate exploitation of human vulnerabilities. It presents a nuanced analysis of the fine line that separates influence from coercion, highlighting that while some methods of persuasion may be justified in contexts such as education or public health, their misuse for personal gain or political control represents a grave. Illustrate how propaganda has been used to justify political agendas, mobilize populations, and even incite social divisions. Furthermore, the discussion extends to the influence exerted by organized groups and the proliferation of conspiracy theories, revealing how these collective entities harness the principles of dark psychology to cultivate a sense of unity and purpose among their followers. Organized groups, ranging from political factions to secretive societies, often deploy a combination of charismatic leadership and ritualistic practices to build a cohesive identity that transcends individual skepticism. The book provides factual evidence showing that such groups deliberately propagate conspiracy theories to explain complex social phenomena in simple, emotionally charged narratives. These narratives serve as powerful tools to recruit new members and reinforce the loyalty of existing ones, creating a feedback loop where doubt and distrust are systematically replaced with certainty and allegiance. In these contexts, manipulation becomes a method not only of control but also of survival, as members of these groups find solace in the certainty provided by a shared, albeit controversial, worldview. The case studies presented in the text highlight how conspiracy theories, while often dismissed as fringe beliefs, can gain substantial traction and exert considerable influence over public discourse, particularly when they tap into widespread feelings of disenfranchisement or betrayal by established institutions. By drawing on real-world examples, the book demonstrates that the dynamics of manipulation are not confined to isolated incidents, but are woven into the fabric of modern society, affecting everything from personal intimacy to mass communication and political mobilization. These documented examples serve as a stark reminder of the dual-edged nature of human influence. While the ability to persuade is an essential component of social interaction, IT can also be misused to manipulate, deceive, and control. As you reflect on these powerful case studies and consider the many forms that manipulation can take, from the covert tactics in a personal relationship to the grand narratives constructed by media and organized groups, ask yourself this: in a world where every interaction and every message may be a deliberate attempt to shape your perceptions, how can you discern the difference between genuine influence and calculated manipulation? And what steps will you take to protect your own autonomy in the face of these pervasive forces? In the 5th chapter, How to Identify and Defend, the book delves into the crucial strategies that empower individuals to recognize and protect themselves from manipulative forces. It begins by emphasizing the importance of increasing self-awareness as the foundational step in defense. The text explains that by understanding one's own cognitive biases, emotional triggers, and habitual thought patterns, an individual can start to see where manipulation might take root. This heightened state of self-awareness is not something that happens overnight, but is cultivated through reflective practices, honest introspection, and a willingness to question one's immediate reactions. The book highlights that when you know your vulnerabilities, you become less susceptible to covert psychological tactics designed to exploit them. Building on this, the chapter advocates for adopting a skeptical perspective as an essential tool in your mental arsenal. Skepticism, in this context, is not about cynicism or rejecting every piece of information outright. Rather, it is a disciplined approach to evaluating the messages you receive, especially those that elicit strong emotional responses. The text explains that manipulators often rely on rapid, uncritical acceptance of information to bypass our defenses, so learning to pause and question the source, intent, and veracity of any message is a powerful countermeasure. By engaging in critical thinking and demanding evidence before accepting claims, you train your mind to differentiate between genuine communication and attempts at covert influence. The book provides concrete examples of how a skeptical mindset can unveil inconsistencies and biases in persuasive messaging, thereby disrupting the manipulative process before it gains momentum. Furthermore, the chapter underscores the significance of accurate information as a shield against manipulation. In a landscape saturated with conflicting narratives and misinformation, the ability to access and verify facts becomes a key defense mechanism. The text makes it clear that when individuals are well informed and can critically assess the quality of the information presented to them, they are less likely to fall prey to deceptive practices. This involves not only seeking out multiple sources to get a comprehensive view of any issue, but also being aware of the techniques used by media and other communicators to shape perceptions. The book stresses that a commitment to truth and the diligent pursuit of reliable data form the bedrock of resistance to manipulative tactics. Accurate information serves as a counterbalance to the deliberate distortions that can lead to confusion and exploitation, thereby reinforcing the integrity of your decision-making processes. Throughout this chapter, the author weaves together these themes to illustrate that the power to identify and defend against manipulation lies within each individual. By increasing self-awareness, embracing a healthy dose of skepticism, and prioritizing the acquisition of accurate information, you not only fortify your personal autonomy, but also contribute to a more informed and resilient society. The book argues that these practices, when applied consistently, can help create a psychological environment where manipulative tactics are less effective and less likely to take root. It calls on readers to view these defensive strategies as part of an ongoing process of personal development and civic responsibility, one that is essential in today's complex and often ambiguous communication landscape. As the chapter draws to a close, the text reinforces that while the forces of manipulation are both subtle and pervasive, the path to safeguarding oneself is clear. Know yourself, question relentlessly, and always seek the truth. By adopting these habits, you create a strong internal fortitude that not only protects you from external influences, but also empowers you to engage with the world on a more conscious and informed level. As you reflect on these insights and prepare to further explore the practical applications of these defensive strategies, ask yourself this: in a world where the line between genuine information and deceptive manipulation is increasingly blurred, how can you ensure that your pursuit of truth remains steadfast amidst the overwhelming tide of influence? In concluding Dark Psychology and Manipulation, the book leaves us with a resonant message. Understanding the hidden forces that shape our behavior is not merely an academic exercise, but a practical tool for reclaiming our autonomy and navigating the complexities of modern life. Throughout its pages, the book has revealed that the subtle art of manipulation, be it through exploiting inherent cognitive weaknesses, deploying covert tactics, or engineering persuasive narratives, permeates every facet of our existence. Whether encountered in personal relationships, media messages, or the orchestrated maneuvers of organized groups, these strategies operate beneath the surface of everyday interactions, influencing decisions and perceptions in ways that often go unnoticed. The key takeaway is that awareness and self-education are our most potent defenses against such manipulative influences. By becoming conscious of our vulnerabilities and the techniques that seek to exploit them, we empower ourselves to question the validity of the information we receive and to scrutinize the motives behind persuasive communication. It is crucial to remember that the insights presented in this book are not intended to incite paranoia or distrust. Rather, they serve as a call to action for a more reflective and discerning approach to life. As you move forward, consider adopting a proactive mindset that prioritizes critical thinking and self-reflection. Develop routines that encourage you to pause and evaluate the sources of your information, challenge assumptions, and remain open to alternative perspectives. Cultivating a healthy dose of skepticism can serve as a safeguard against the subtle encroachments of manipulation, allowing you to maintain clarity and independence in your judgments. Moreover, integrating these principles into your daily life can help you foster stronger personal boundaries and more authentic relationships. When you become attuned to the psychological triggers that manipulators employ, such as appeals to emotion, the exploitation of fear, or the creation of confusion through incomplete information, you are better equipped to recognize and resist these tactics when they arise. This self-awareness is not only a shield, but also a foundation upon which you can build a more resilient and empowered self. In practical terms, consider setting aside regular time for introspection, whether through journaling, meditation, or engaging in thoughtful discussions with trusted peers who challenge your views constructively. Such practices can help you identify patterns in your own thought processes and reveal any biases that might leave you susceptible to undue influence. Additionally, seek out reliable and diverse sources of information to ensure that your understanding of the world is grounded in verified facts rather than manipulated narratives. The ability to cross-check data and confirm the authenticity of information is essential in an era where misinformation can easily sway public opinion and personal beliefs. Embracing a commitment to truth and transparency is, in itself, a form of resistance against manipulation as you continue to navigate the modern landscape where every message, be it from a friend, a news outlet, or a social media platform, carries the potential to influence your thoughts and actions. Remember that the power to choose your path rests with you. The book urges you to take this knowledge and apply it not only as a means of self-protection, but also as a catalyst for personal growth and empowerment. It is a reminder that while manipulation techniques may be sophisticated and pervasive, so too is the human capacity for discernment and resilience. Use the insights you have gained as a toolkit for evaluating the myriad voices that vie for your attention, and let them guide you in making decisions that reflect your true values and aspirations. In doing so, you contribute not only to your own well-being, but also to the creation of a more informed and conscientious society. As you step forward into the complexities of the world, ask yourself, how can you harness the power of awareness and truth to forge a path that is authentically yours, resisting the subtle forces of manipulation while embracing the full potential of your independent mind?